Welcome back to another video. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Happy Wednesday. We had CPI this morning. I'm up around $2,500 on the day. I want to run you guys through the trade that I ended up taking today. I only took one setup. Without further ado, let's jump into the charts, and I want to run you guys through my thought process with the day. So going into the day, just looking at like right before market open, I want to get a good understanding of what the bigger time frame is doing, right? So going into the morning and going into the day, the bigger time frame order flow has been so bullish. We have continued to lack displacement to the downside. We haven't closed below any of these lows yet. So on this 15-minute fair value gap, I'm expecting, again, I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know if this is going to hold bullish or not because buy side just got swept to the left of us. Again, this is the CPI candle. So keep in mind, at 8:30, CPI opens, and we just pump straight to this, right? So now, a lot of the time, what I'm looking for at this certain case is what will happen is price will kind of rebalance, and then we'll get bought up, and then we'll possibly go take this, and then maybe we'll kind of like fall back down, right? Like that's potentially what I'm kind of see, because I'm right now trying to just want to understand what the draw is. Because so far throughout the morning, we come up, okay, well, we come back up, take this internal high, a little bit of an SMT. So going into market open, we're maybe bearish, but we're in this bigger time frame for value gap, but there's no change in the state on the bigger time frame. What does that mean, right? We'd have to close below these if we want to go really low or not, so I'm not really worried about it. So going into open, we'll kind of play it out here. So market opens, immediately starts to sell off. At this point in time, I'm like, okay, we could maybe run through these imbalances, maybe look to go back higher. I'm not fully sure yet. So I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting. Now we're kind of starting to have this first little move, and I'm saying, okay, well, maybe if we start to run through these inefficiencies, we can maybe get bought back up through these highs. Again, I'm still pretty loose right now, not really understanding and wanting to just take a trade. So we initially end up rejecting this, have one last move lower. So at this point in time, I'm starting to see, okay, do we want to work our way towards the low from the morning? But what ends up happening is NQ ends up taking this low. So keep in mind, 8:30 data lows is right here. ES takes data lows as well, but NQ ends up taking the 8:15 low. So we end up putting in an SMT. Now, normally, I would want to see an SMT here, and I want to run you guys through my thought process. This SMT alone is not enough for me to take a trade. It's not. I need to see the market show me that like there's no reason for the market to go lower, and there needs to be a change and a shift in order flow. So at this point in time, all of the morning, we're selling off, we're generating buy-side liquidity, right? All of these stacked highs, we respect this first bearish fair value gap. We come back up, reject this, right? So now it's like, okay, well, maybe this SMT is just a fake. How do I know if it's actually real or not, right? And this is the question of like, Justin, how do I know if an SMT is going to hold? You don't. You wait for the reaction and you wait for order flow to affirm that it's going to hold. So my model of what I need to see, my forever model is I want to see some sort of manipulation, liquidity swept, and some sort of manipulation. Right now, that's the first thing that's happening, right? That means liquidity was swept on NQ. ES is now having a bullish SMT. Now, what is the next thing I need to see? I want to have some idea of where the market can draw to. Where could the market potentially draw to? Well, we can draw towards all the way back to these highs, but there's also all of this internal generated buy-side liquidity that we've created throughout the morning, right? There's a bunch of stacked highs here. So this is kind of my internal buy-side liquidity in which I'd want to see price go to. So now, what do I need to see for me to take this trade? A shift in order flow, right? If market is bear, and think about it this way. If the market is bearish and we do want to go lower, right? This is the difference between trying to predict the market versus being reactive. I'm looking at this and saying, okay, there's a bullish SMT. We can maybe get bought up here, or it can maybe get ran. If the market is bullish, what would happen? This fair value gap would get ran through, right? If the market's bullish, we would obviously run through this inefficiency, and that would tell us that the draw is higher. If the draw is lower, we would reject this fair value gap and go break the SMT. Right? So what do I do here? I wait for the market to tell me what it wants to do. We end up running through this fair value gap. What's the next thing I need to take my trade? A change in the state. What's the change in the state here? The series of down closed candles. So if I look at the 1 minute or the 2 minute, it's these last down closed candles on the manipulation leg, right? So it's the last move lower. Notice we have an initial rebalance. This fair value gap gets rejected, and then boom, sell off, internal low. Now we're closing above this down close candle. So as soon as we get above this down close candle, I enter long. And my stop loss was the low right here at around 040, so 6,040. And I was targeting my first PT at these internal highs and then letting a runner go towards the external highs. So again, everything I've needed to see now is in play. And I want you guys to understand what quantifies as a high quality setup, right? I need to have an idea of where the market can go. Why would I expect the market to bounce here, right? Number one, there's an SMT at the low. Number two, we're in discount and OTE of this range. If I look at the previous price range and I draw this out, we are in OTE, right? We're all the way back to 0.62 to 0.79 of the range. We're below equilibrium. So I want to be taking longs in discount and I want to be taking shorts in premium. So if we're all the way back in this range and now we put an SMT in, fair value gap gets ran through and change in the state, this is my model. This is everything I want to see, right? So I enter in long, we end up coming back, tapping the change. Now, one thing that I did not do right, but ended up working in my favor, I planned to let my runners go to this high. I accidentally took off my full position at BT1, and I did not re-enter. I hate re-entering if I accidentally make that mistake because then my P&L is changed back to zero, and I hate it. So, again, that's a psychology thing, but I just didn't want to do it. So fortunately, because this ended up coming back down. So this was the trade that I ended up taking. One thing I also want you guys to note is my management for this. So when we're at this initial change in the state and we're dancing, right, we're kind of slowing down, prices starting to accumulate, consolidate a bit. What is going on here? Well, what ends up happening is how do I know where to move my stop? How can I protect myself and start to trail this? So once we get above this, I'm taking my entry around here on the pullback to the change in the state, right? My entry was around here. It wasn't exactly at the change. I'm going to say it was around here. So I'll mark this. So I'm risking, around 8 points on ES, which is kind of fairly big, right? I want to kind of tighten this as much as I can. Now, what do I need to see for me to move my stop, though? Because the market could come back, tap this inverse fair value gap potentially, and then maybe go back higher, right? So what do I need to do to really protect myself? I need to see internal manipulation, meaning, again, the market is this constant exchange of sell side, buy side, sell side, buy side. So when we have a bias like this, this becomes what we call turtle soup. Turtle soup is internal manipulation in the opposing direction of the draw, meaning when we look at this bigger time frame model and I can say there's an SMT at the low, there's this fair value gap that just got ran through. We have a change in the state, meaning everything I've needed to see for me to be bullish, I'm very, very bullish. So any manipulation in the opposing direction in this area before buy sides gets taken is called turtle soup, basically. Meaning we come back down, we stop out all of the people initially that kind of are trailing their stops, boom, one last move, and then as soon as we get above this high, I move my stop to this low. So this is basically how I managed this trade, is as soon as we got above that high, I moved my stop to the low, took off a lot of risk in that sense, and then once we ended up coming up to take these equal highs, I basically took the full position off. There wasn't anything that I held. I was planning on holding it, but again, this was totally by accident that I actually ended up taking this fully off. But again, lucky for me, we kind of just started to chop around afterwards, and then we ended up dumping pretty much straight to the break-even point. So this would have been stopped anyway. So fortunately, me again, but I'm not looking at this in the sense where it's like, Justin, this was a mistake. I did not plan to do this. So even though it worked out for me, I got lucky, and you have to admit that. Going over to TradePath, everything in the journal looks good. Basically, just wrote down P&L, this overall screenshot, trade rules, had my liquidity manipulation, had a confident draw, had my change in the state, had an SMT, looks good. Basically took some little notes going into the morning, was pretty loose with the bias because of CPI at 830, wanted to pay attention to how we were going to play out in the internal range. Once market opened, waited for clear manipulation to form a stronger bias. NQ sold off, took out data lows. ES put in a bullish SMT. From here, I still wanted to see more confirmation, so I waited for the inverse value gap and the change in the state, and then took the long targeting internal stacked highs. I took it all off at the internal high. So overall, this month has been pretty solid. Only 4 trading days that I've actually taken. The rest of them have been no trades. We're up around 7K so far. Again, really just taking it slow in these kind of market conditions. We ended up just pushing live an update for TradePath as well, which is our new habit builder and strategy system. So right here, I can actually track all of my habits and my broken rules if I am, my rule percentage. And then what's sick about this is I can go analyze and it'll give me an entire AI breakdown of everything that's kind of going right now and going wrong. So behavioral patterns, it'll, changes since the last summary, action plan, never skip confident draw on liquidity, stick to 2 trades max even on CPI days, keep emotions in check. You're doing well, but CPI day showed a small lapse in discipline. Again, this was just me taking it off a little bit early. And then final execution when following rules, especially confident draw, the only loss was avoidable. CPI day was profitable, but breaking daily rules is a bad habit. Stay strict even when it feels unnecessary. So get little insights as well. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I live trade every single morning. If you want to watch me trade live, I ended up taking this trade live in the Discord. So if you are interested in joining, I will leave a link in the description for that as well. And I will see you guys soon. Peace out.